This is the Big Woods Bucks podcast. Come explore the big woods and timber in North America with your host, Maine Master Guide and deer tracking expert Hal Blood. Listen to Hal and co-hosts Lee Libby and Joe Cruzy as they unlock the secrets of big woods whitetails. Each episode will provide valuable insights into the tried and true system Hal has used for the last 40 years to scout, locate, and hunt mature big woods bucks. Listen and laugh as the crew discusses Hal's legendary adventures and learn how to apply a lifetime's worth of lessons from the big woods to your own hunting and outdoor adventures.
Welcome to the Big Woods Bucks podcast. I'm your host, Hal Blood, sitting here in sunny downtown Parlin Pond at the lodge with Joe Cruzy.
Hello.
And Lee Libby.
Howdy.
And we're thinking about fall, of course, and deer season, moose season, all that. I left the house this morning at 6 o'clock. It was 46 degrees.
Yeah.
Loving
nice.
it.
That was a bit surprising to me when I saw the temp today.
Yeah.
With all the build-up for how hot it's supposed to be this weekend, 46 was...
Yeah, yesterday it was up around 80 and it was humid, but it knocked it out in the night, them showers. And I think we're only supposed to have one day, like about 85 Saturday maybe, and then...
That's enough.
70.
Yeah, that's enough.
Low 70s again next week.
Let's wrap it up.
That's it.
It's
That's what
funny. How many times you got to talk about the weather these days? You know, like every person you come in contact with. Is that the ultimate small talk?
Yeah, the weather.
Oh, pretty hot out.
I think we can't believe that the weathermen can hold a job as wrong as they are most of the time. If I was wrong, I'd be out of business.
Oh, I haven't heard that one before either.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Whenever we get the extremes, we're all guilty of it.
Well,
But-
that's the beauty of living up here in God's country. We get the best weather.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you say weather?
Weather. Yeah. Do that. So, as usual in the summer, deer hunting interest with a lot of people starts to wane. Not that the interest wanes, but people are busy with vacations, summer activities, going to the lake, barbecues, whatever. So I've noticed the question of the month questions have dropped right off, which is fine. That's okay.
Maybe you've answered all the questions, Hal.
Maybe that's it.
There's no more questions.
Yeah. Here we are. We're in, I think, whatever this is, and we're into July anyways. I haven't got one question this month, but I had 3 in June, so I decided, instead of just picking one and putting it on the club webpage, we'd answer all 3 of them here on this podcast. Because I'm sure, I always said there's never a stupid question, because if somebody asks a question, there's probably 100 other people thinking about asking it. You know, they just don't want to. So...
And I haven't seen any of the questions, so I'm always intrigued by it.
there's always some good questions, you know. So I'll start off with a question.
Getting right into it today, huh?
Well, you know.
Yeah. Know how you been, Lib? What's going on in Rangeley?
He doesn't even see you anymore, Lib. You just sit over there at the end of the table. Hal's had eye contact with me the whole time. He didn't even notice you over there.
There's only hope for the future, you know, and that's it.
Well, I don't dare to look at
You know CPR?
I think he thinks in 10 years he's going to see too much of me. He's like, oh, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, you're trying to get me to move to Rangeley already.
Yeah. It's I'll never stop until you're there.
Yeah.
Then I might regret it.
Need a few more deer hunters over there, huh?
Yeah. I think I'll go right over there and start deer hunting over there.
Yeah.
Not. So what is going on in Rangeley? Busy this time of year, huh?
Oh, yeah. It's busy. Rangeley's been busy. Yeah. I never seen so many people in town. It's good for the economy. It's good for business. It's good for everything. But, I got a couple houses going, and that little Main Mountain Millworks furniture place is really... been cranking. I had 3 people in there yesterday trying to catch up on orders, and we just can't. But a funny story, a gal came in a couple of weeks ago and ordered 2 beds. And she says, I bought 2 beds online, and when they showed up, they wasn't anything like the picture. And they lived in southern Maine, so they drove up to see if what we were selling looked like the picture online. So she said when the beds showed up, they took them out of the box and they put them right back in the box and they sent them back.
Oh, yeah.
She said it was nothing like the picture. And she walked into the showroom and it was exactly like the picture. So she ordered 2 from us. So
nice.
It's kind of neat. I never really thought, when you buy something online, anything we ever sell, whether Big Woods or through my business or your business, they get what they pay for. But I think in the big world, we're a little naive to what some people are actually selling,
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. I was thinking about on the way up, Lee's got his thing going on over there, and Hal's working his ass off, and I'm up here working, and we had a lot of you guys that follow also know who Rick Labby is. He was supposed to come up today and be on the podcast, which I think he's going to for sure be on the next one, but he had a cylinder go on one of his loaders, and work comes first. Everyone's working guys and has things going on.
Yeah.
Got to get stuff done for deer season.
That's right.
Wrap it up.
Well, it's such a short season for us, It really, if you think about it, we got 6 months, 7 months, best case scenario, to make a living, a lot of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's always, it seems like, especially when we got started, it always seemed like, oh, yeah, get together and do some podcasts and
shoot the breeze,
go
fishing.
But it's a challenge, It's a challenge. Fortunately for me, it's usually here at the lodge, so it's pretty easy for me to make it. But we always got to coax Lee over. I made him bring over a load of kindling for me today.
Yeah.
That's what good friends do.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, well.
But it's not quite the same here as Rangeley, unfortunately, as far as the droves of people. Weekends are fairly busy, but boy, weekdays are a little slower in this area.
Yeah.
Actually had a Tim, one of the deer hunters coming up this fall hunting with us, was up last weekend with his wife, checking the area out. And
do you like it?
Oh yeah. I thought it was big.
Yeah,
a lot of cuts. He was using his GPS to get around, and he said he completely lost service there for a minute. But he's kind of getting the lay of the land, and which smart. Get out there now, and
get the lay of the land. You don't know much about where the deer are going to be, but you can get the lay of the land and kind of get orientated.
Rose, I told him all your secret spots and told him where the trail cam picture that you took. I told him where that was. Gave him the GPS coordinates.
Speaking of pictures, that one you put on Facebook, you going to tell me where that was?
Which one? Drop Tine?
No, the one last night. That big toad.
Oh, where the track was?
Yeah, down the road. The one you thought was a moose track.
I'll tell you where that is. Yeah. Down the low country where they never get any
he said it where it was. It was in his driveway.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody had commented on the Facebook what road was that on. I said it was in my driveway.
We've been talking about sponsors lately. I'm going to get one of them sponsors with a tracking device, and I'm going to put it in Hal's backpack. Then he can't lie to me about where this stuff is.
The tile?
The tile.
Yeah. I'm going to put the tile on Hal.
Yeah. Have one of them GPS dog tracking collars on me, huh?
Exactly.
Just throw it in your truck.
Yeah. I never know where I'm going to be. Someone might ask me, or my wife does, where are you going tomorrow? I don't know. Get up in the morning, look around.
Yeah.
I think
decide where I'm going.
I think that's one of the things I've had challenges with over the years is I get hyper focused on some areas sometimes. If I get into an area that I've had a couple great days in and a lot of deer, I always focus on going back until I'm driving into a spot and see a big track and I find another area that that happens a lot, whereas I know like you, Hal, probably you too, Lib, you wake up and just look where the snow is and go.
Yeah. I hope to find an odd track somewhere where I've never been.
Yeah.
I do too. I enjoy it. I love over the next hill and all that.
Yeah.
Seeing new country. But if you get into a spot that's just, the last couple seasons I've found some different areas, just like what dreams are made of. You get in there and got the big spruce trees and cedar bogs and everything, and it's hard to get past that. You always want to go back and check it out. And,
I've probably killed as many bucks in places that were new that I hadn't been in, and I have that I knew where I was.
Right.
Just finding a track or whatever. Or just maybe a place I thought looked good in the winter. I was driving on my snowmobile. This looks pretty good. I'll go check it out. Sometimes you go right in there and kill a buck. It don't matter.
You did that last year.
Yeah, there's bucks about everywhere.
Which was good because I learned a new area.
Yeah, that's right. Well, what happens to me too, I'll tell you. I get bored with the place. If I find a new place, it's like you said, it's exciting to be in there, but Usually for me, it's about 2 years. I've been in there 2 years kicking around, and all of a sudden, I've learned everything about it, and then it's boring to me. Especially when there's no snow and you're just trying to scout and look around and stuff. But then I just end up finding something else, going somewhere else and rotate around. Yeah. So I tell people that come up here to hunt, just keep going, just too many people do get focused on one place they found deer 1 year. There might not be as many, or the bucks might not travel through there as much the next year. So,
yeah, especially with these woods, so many things change. It's not like the old days where woods were the same for years and years. I mean,
yeah.
You might go there next. Well, it happened to me in one of my spots. You go back the next year and it's flattened.
Yeah. Well, we always did when we went to Ontario. We did the same thing. We made it our mission to find 1 or 2 new places every year we were there. So we'd go back and hunt around where we knew, and then we'd try to find, several other new places.
Yeah.
So we'd have something else for the next year, And sometimes we'd find a good place. We'd go back the next year, and there wouldn't be nothing there the next year in the new place either. So, but if you have enough places in your list, then you'll find a place to go hunt every year.
I'm going back to some old stomping grounds this year.
Oh, in Rangeley?
No.
Downtown Rangeley?
Yeah. I got a client.
There's a bar there or something? Old stomping grounds?
The Dewdrop Inn. But I got a client the 3rd week into the gore, so.
I did get you to guide a week somehow, didn't I?
Yeah, well, I said it had to be a really interesting client. And calls me up and said, hey, how about Ed Canary? I'm like, who can say no to Ed Canary?
Yeah.
Joe just did it to me, too. So Joe calls me, you want to guide a moose hunter zone 8? I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. No. Come on. I says, well, it'd have to be a really interesting. So he calls me the other day and said, hey, I just booked you for a hunt. And I says, what? He says, I got an Iraqi vet, disabled, just got a moose tag. I'm like, all right, you got me.
He's
there.
an American vet. He served in Iraq.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Jesus.
It's Iraqi war veterans. I served under
knew
Saddam. They love tracking over there, moose hunting.
Yeah. So, anyways, he got me for that. So.
Is he a Marine?
Geez, I don't know. I won't hold it against him if he's not.
I don't know what branch, but I talked to him and seems like a hell of a good guy, and I'm excited that you got a good hunt, and excited that he's got a good guide.
Now I just need a cameraman. Actually, I know a gal that would video that. Jenna would video that for me.
He's like a camera whore nowadays, isn't he?
Oh. Well, he
won't even walk in the woods without a camera on him now, and he doesn't even have a video to show anyone.
Well, I'm scared. I hope he can read a compass. We can always look at the footage to get us out, Yeah. No, it's all these years we've been out there enjoying what we enjoy, and we haven't really been able to share it, other than talk about it. And geez, I'd really like to show more. I mean,
well, that's something I guess we could share a little bit more of as we're working hard on for this fall.
Yeah, production.
Yeah, we're hoping to have some really good stuff this fall. We're working on having a bunch of cameramen.
Oh, so wait a minute. So it went from I'm a camera whore to Lib, it's a great idea.
Hey, you take your shots where you can.
If you think this
and
is
don't act like it was your idea.
If you think this is the first time in 12 years I've heard Lib, that's a good idea.
I don't know about this guy, Al. Can we vote him off the island?
Oh, tattoos got me firmly planted.
So anyway, we're excited about that. We're gonna have some good production this fall.
Yeah. I might even take a cameraman with me, huh?
Yeah, you know any good ones?
Yeah. Jason said he's coming.
Good.
I like that.
So we might have no boundaries too.
Yeah, we're always looking too. They're hard to find, and we've had some guys and gals come over the years, and I remember, true story, and this fella's going to kill me for saying this, but I was out to the gore one day, and I had a client, and we come across a buck track early in the morning. We took it, and he'd crossed a couple roads and crossed right by the truck. And I said, all right, my client's tired. I'm going to jump in the truck and run up around the Fishhook Road and see if I can't cut him off or get a little closer. Save my climb a few steps, And so I got to go down the road and turn around. I come down, I back into the turnaround, and I see this fella running down the road. I said, what the heck is going on? I looked, I said, oh, that's Hal's cameraman. So I pulled up beside of him, and he's awash of sweat, and I says, what's going on? He's gone, he said, he's gone. And I'm thinking, oh, Jesus, Hal is dead. He's gone. I says, what do you mean he's gone? He says he was standing there 1 minute, and he got this look in his eye, and he just took off, and I couldn't keep up. He says, so I backtracked out of the woods, he says, and I just don't know what to do. I'm like, well, jump in. So, anyways.
Did you stage that, Hal?
No.
Just tell him I was like a ghost.
Yeah, no, that happened.
Hal said that night, I said, what the hell did you do to that cameraman? He says, I just couldn't wait any longer, Lib. I had to go.
Well, we had a pretty good pull up this ridge. It was pretty steep and long, and we had just jumped the buck. I was working out an old track from the night, and this was, it must have been pretty close to noon, 11 or noon. We're going along up on a hardwood ridge, and I come to a fresh running track, and I go, what happened here? And I'm looking at it. I could see it was walking towards us, and we just bumped it, and it bailed down over the hill and crossed the road up the next ridge, and I knew I had to just keep on it pretty good, so I did. And he actually got with another buck. He crossed another road, and they got in, and I could hear them 2 bucks in front of me. They were fooling around. I could hear cracking, and I'm like, so I stopped and I waited, and I didn't know what was going on, so thick I couldn't see 20 yards hardly in there. So then when I didn't hear it anymore, I started easing ahead, and those 2 bucks had kind of sparred a little bit, not like with their horns, but they were circling around each other in there, and then they walked off, and they went out, and if I'd have just moved, it's one of them things you don't know, do this or do that. They walked, both of them, right across the clear cut for 200 yards. Within, probably from where I heard them, within another 150 yards, they both went right to this clear cut, split up, and walked across the clear cut. And the one I started on was a little bit bigger track, and he was headed right towards, he was only less than a half a mile from the border of Canada. And I'm like, oh, boy, that guy's going to be gone. So I took the other one, which was still a nice track. I said, well, I'll try to get a look at him, and I did. I didn't go another probably quarter of a mile or so on it. And I could have shot him. I see him when I stepped into a skid road. He took off, and just the side view I had I don't know, and then I let him go, and he run down in a cut, and I was looking down in there. It was kind of a slashy cut, and I said, I thought I could see a glint of antlers in the sun, And I pull my binoculars up, and I look, and this thing looks like it's 2 feet wide, and I'm like, oh. I drop my binoculars, and I'm trying to get, it was down in there, 125 yards probably. I pull the gun up. Just as I brought the gun up, he just turned, and he walked through the cut. I could barely see him. I didn't shoot, and he come out of it right up into the hardwoods about 200 yards away, and he was like 300 yards from the border, and I didn't bother. I didn't try to shoot. I said, if I wing that thing, he's gone,
I lost a nice one up there one year. You remember that?
Yeah.
He was hit hard, too. He didn't live. Yeah. That was sickening.
Yeah, that's what sucks about hunting near the border. Good country up there, and anyone who's hunted up near the border's had it happen, I think. Either waste their whole day.
I've chased 100 of them across the border.
Yeah. I was thinking about something on the way up. You got any defining moments, like things that happened? I guess you'd call it lessons learned, like things where you really screwed up and they come back and like after that you just never let it happen again.
Was you with me this morning? Because it happens about every day. But
yeah.
Oh, you mean deer hunting?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'm not talking about your civilian life.
Day. Yeah, I think we all had them. That one right there, that buck that I lost into Canada was a pretty good moment. I was tracking him with Kevin Harrison, and we come across the end of the Pallet Bridge Road, and he
all
was
these
headed
names,
up,
J-Hook, Pallet Bridge.
Yeah.
Heard these before.
Yeah. And he was headed for the end of the fish hook, and I knew he was. And I told Kevin, I says, bail down over this ridge and get on the end of that mud road, we called it, and run to the end of the fish hook road, and he's going to cross right by that wood yard. I'll guarantee it. And he says, well, if you know where it's going, you might as well run up there. I'll give you 20 minutes, and then I'll keep tracking. It's probably a mile and a half. I sprinted up through there, crossed the ridge, hit the mud road, ran up, sat there, sat right in a ditch. And I wasn't there 20 minutes, and the doe steps out. And she gets halfway across the road. Now, there's nothing between me and her but 30 yards of open space. And I'm still hunkered down in the ditch, and this Big 10 steps out, and he's behind some whippets. And it's just a shallow, just whippets, nothing serious, like some maple regen, just little half-inch, 1-inch stuff. And he breaks through a brush pile with his right foot, and when he picks his head up, he's looking right at me. And I'm kneeled down now, right in the edge of the ditch there. And I'm thinking, come on. And he takes his head, and you know how they nod their head a little bit? And he nods his head twice.
Lee's nodding his head now for the audience.
I'm like, you shit, he busted me. Because here I am. He can see me clear as day. And I was dead on his front shoulders, and I pulled the trigger. Boom. And he went down, and he jumped in the middle of the road, and I could see blood coming out of him both sides. And it's just running down his front legs, and he's standing there, and I stood up, and I started to reload my muzzleloader, and I looked him right in the eye, and I said, you stand right there for just another minute, and I'll take care of it. And he stood there long enough for me to get that ramrod down, but not enough to get it out, and he took off. And he was bleeding good. And he went up to where we used to have that ground blind, and he went through there, and he stopped, and he laid down, and he bled really good. And then he went up, and he laid 30 yards from the border. And he got up and laid down 3 different times. So, because Kevin comes up through the woods, now half an hour's gone by. And I said, geez, he's hit pretty good, but he was moving pretty good. So we go up, and we find the first little spot within 150 yards where he laid down. Kevin said, he's got to be right here somewhere. So we go up, he's laying right on the border, behind a maple tree, and Kevin sees him, and he goes, buck, and the buck jumps up, and Kevin sends one, boom, and he bails over the border. And when we get up there, he had gotten up and laid down 3 different times under that maple tree. And if we'd have given him an hour, he'd have never got up again. But
this is when you become a liberal. You don't worry about borders.
Yeah.
You cross over.
I hate to say it, but I might have been a refugee that day.
For a little while. Huh?
For a little while. What a disheartening feeling, just all you can see when you lay down at night is that buck standing in the middle of that road.
Oh, yeah.
Just the experience itself would have been a great story to tell. I mean,
so the lesson you learned on that one was you pushed him maybe a little bit too hard if you would have let him. And it doesn't sound like you made any big mistake. It was just a 50-50 shot.
And you know what? He still had to come out and run across 50 or 60 yards of wide open logging road, plus that wood yard was right there. But when you're looking at that at 30 yards and there's only a little whippets between you, like Hal said, that muzzleloader, it doesn't take that much to knock them off. So it might have hit it back a little too far.
So if you just would have waited and let them come? Or
yeah, because, now that I think about it, when I shoot at a deer, I try to take everything from the front shoulders right straight through him, And I think it hit him a little bit back and a little bit low. So,
yeah, I don't shoot through brush with a muzzle loader anymore. It ain't worth it. You might get one through there, but too many times that's what happens. It don't end up hitting where you want it. So, yeah, that's a good lesson.
I don't know if one of my biggest, where I just was sick for 2 days over it, was a moose hunt that I was guiding. I don't know if I talked about it on here before. It's so hard sometimes. We talk about so much stuff. You don't know if you've told this story 3 times or not, but it was, I was guiding a Make-A-Wish girl that had cystic fibrosis. And anyway, she shot the moose. We called it in. She shot it broadside at 75 yards. The moose dropped like it was hit by lightning. And my big mistake was, especially as the guide, I was so caught up because of her situation. Her dad was there getting it on video, like when they walked up to it. That was my focus. I was trying to capture the moment, and I was being like Lee. I was all consumed with the video. So it took me time. I got my camera. I said, hold on, everyone, because I'm watching him the whole time. This moose just hit it was in tall grass, so we couldn't see him, but he dropped right there in a cut. Beautiful bull. And so I get the camera out and everything, got the GoPro going, the whole 9 yards. We're going to get this and document this awesome moment when she walks up to this bull. And we were probably 40 yards from it, walking to it, and I didn't have a gun. You know, her dad was shouldering her gun. And at the time, and I'm sure it's the same way, but when the state gives away 2 of those permits per year for Hunt of a Lifetime, it's called. It's like I say Make-A-Wish, but Make-A-Wish doesn't do hunts anymore, so we don't want to push them. It's called Hunt of a Lifetime. And they do hunts for really sick and terminally ill kids and that sort of thing. So anyway, the state does 2 of those, and their whole thing is they want to make sure the hunter gets their animal. You know, they want to make sure they get a moose. So they basically say, you know, if it's wounded and the guide has to shoot, whatever, you know, you do what you have to do. And so when that moose got up and started running, I was focused with the camera on the father and daughter, and the father says like, he's getting up, and I said, what was that? Because my hearing's suspect. I said, what was that, Tony? He says he's getting up, and when I looked over and saw that moose running, he was in a full out sprint. Like, you don't often see moose run like a deer, right, you know, like fast, and this thing was getting with it. And it's something else to see a big bull like that hauling ass. So anyway, he was a good poke from me by now because he got up and was going, and I had enough time to grab the rifle off the dad's shoulder and was able to get one shot off there before he disappeared. But we followed that moose all day, and that was in the morning that it happened. We tracked him for 0.8 of a mile with blood. Then we lost blood in a swamp. Ended up not finding him. We're going to bring blood tracking dogs in. Talked to the tracking lady, and she said Suzanne Hamilton, which she's well known in Maine, and she has some awesome dogs for blood trailing. But I gave her the whole story. She said, oh, yeah, you'll never find that moose. It's not dead. I said, what do you mean? How can you be so sure? Oh, she said, it hits in that area where it shocks them. It paralyzes them temporarily. They hit the ground. And who knows how many millions of animals are lost like this. Yeah. But had I been paying attention to business and getting her up there, you know, and making sure that the moose is dead, take care of business first.
Right.
Make sure your animal's on the ground before you start celebrating and high-fiving and everything. And that was a tough lesson because not only if it was just mine, it would have been one thing. But, you know, here we are with this girl who we ended up getting a really nice bull. Eric joined in with me towards the end there, and we shot a nice bull on Saturday. But I learned a lot from that, and I always tell moose hunters now, everyone that comes, shoot till he's on the ground, and
get up.
It's
there.
not over. Get up there. Run if you have to, but get there and make sure you finish the job.
Look at that big deer I found out to Gorham Gore there that year. Remember the guy shot it?
Yeah.
Hit it in the horn. And he sat down. He was a little shaky, so he sat down, ate a sandwich, and it got up and run.
Yeah, he hit it right through the horn.
Knocked it out.
The horns was so big that he shot an 0.6 right through the horn. Shot a hole right through it without even breaking it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, while the deer was running off, he up and shot again. So it was 2 weeks later. I had a client, about 2 weeks.
Because
Mike
more
Sullivan.
than that. No. What week was it?
It was muzzleloader week that I had.
That was a month later because he was in there the first week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So a month later, we're tracking another deer, and I come across this set of cat tracks, and there's a lot of them in this one spot where this deer went through, and I'm like, what the heck? And I look, and there's a cat on a brush pile, and he's working at something. And I'm like, what the heck's going on? So I walk over there, and the cat takes off, and I can see a deer's leg laying there. And so I got looking around, and he had dragged that head and the rib cage, what was left of it. He was trying to shove that under a brush pile. Yeah, it was a big lynx.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and, I didn't have a camera or nothing. If I had, I'd have waited and watched. And I grabbed that rib cage and yadded it out, and there was that head and everything, so I twisted it off. And I ended up calling a friend of mine who was a warden, told him the story, and he said, yeah, take it.
So you have that still?
Yep. Somebody's been trying to get it from me, but I won't give it up.
Bullet hole right through it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
30-06.
Somebody won't.
It was shooting at the horns, huh?
Yeah. Somebody won't give it up, but somebody just got a gun they wanted.
It's safe. It's safe. When you move to Rangeley, it'll be right there waiting for you.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah, that's another one where, if he had walked up there and just...
Got to finish the job.
Yeah. Hey, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the hunting club. And you can join by going right online at bigwoodsbucks.com. But anyways, I've got all my information is going in there. And it's a place where you can get together and look at my films, tips, writings, and all of that. And the best part is forums for you to communicate with, the rest of the club members, talk about Big Woods stuff and all of that. So anyways, $36 a year, cheaper than getting a Starbucks once a day. So join up and hope you see you on there. Hey everyone, Hal here. Just want to take a minute to talk about the Woodman Arms muzzleloader. We got them all set on the website to build your own or buy your Big Woods Bucks model, either one you want to do. But anyways, we've tested it a lot, and I can honestly say it's the most accurate muzzleloader on the market, best to carry in the Big Woods or anywhere else at 5.5 pounds. You can't go wrong with it. So get on there and check it out. I don't know how many I probably had over the years 100 bear hunters do that. They're up there, they shoot the bear, and it's rolling around the ground. They're up there congratulating themselves, and the bear gets up and runs off because it don't take them long to disappear. The woods are so thick around a bear bait, and we never get them. We've never got one of those. I remember over all the years, the story would be, yeah, he's thrashing around like breakdancing on the ground, and whenever I hear that, I'm like... Yeah,
I just had a visual of a black bear spinning on its back.
They do.
That's
That's exactly what they do. And actually, my son Gary lost one.
Black bear.
Yeah, my son Gary lost one like that too, because he was just a little kid, and he couldn't get another shot. It rolled. It was thrashing, and I mean like breakdancing on the ground, and it rolled and thrashed almost down under the stand before it got on its feet. Finally got on its feet and was gone like a shot. And that's what every one of them hunters described. And I'm pretty sure after tracking them so many of those that we never get, I think they're gut shot. And then, it knocks them down. And once they get on their feet, they can get far enough where you never get them,
Yeah.
Because they don't bleed as much. Every one of those ends up, they don't bleed either, Once in a while, one of them is hitting a leg, and I can tell it usually blows some bone out or something, and they'll do the same thing. It knocks them off their feet, and then they thrash around till they get on their feet and gone. But never get one of them bears.
We did that in the hunting in the Everglades once. We were hunting on tracks. So they're big vehicles that you're up on, and you basically chase the deer down from a platform, shoot them, and so we get into this chase, and we had 3 buggies in this one area. So we get on this deer, and my buddy on another buggy ends up shooting it. It's the biggest buck I've ever seen killed in the glades. A beautiful 10-point, big heavy rack and everything. And so it's laying on the ground. So we all pull the buggies up to it, and the deer's laying there, and everyone's all happy celebrating. We all jump off the buggies, not a gun in a hand. We get down there next to this quote-unquote dead deer, and with us getting ready to take pictures, that deer jumped up and took off. Well, you should have seen the scrambling going on with all of us. And I mean, it was looked like Graveyard Dead, like it was one of those videos. I've seen a couple of videos online that where they jump up. That thing jump out, and in sawgrass, they can disappear quick. I mean, sawgrass is thick. Well, we were scrambling. We ended up catching it and killing it, and getting them. But that was the first time I ever saw that happen, where a dead deer comes to life.
Yeah, usually I'd rather see the deer like run off and drop. When they run a little bit, 20, 30, 40 yards and drop, they're done. The ones that drop right off, you got to be suspect. Doesn't mean they won't be there, because I've shot a bunch. You take out both shoulders and you get near the spine, they drop and they're done. But That's sometimes is when you nick the spine and the neck or the back somewhere and it shocks them, or maybe you did hit the antler or something. But yeah.
So that's the shot and what happens to it. That's the shot that everyone wants, right? Like as far as watching something, you ever find yourself, you look at these videos, you always, any show that cuts out that part of it, which there's not many of them anymore but it used to be, they'd show someone shoot, but then they'd show the dead deer laying there. That was boring. You always want to see the shot and how the deer reacts. I think it's the most, it's one of the, when watching a video, I mean, there's always a story and that's all good and everything. But when you seeing what happens and how far, whether it be a running shot and the deer piles up going 80 miles an hour across across the field or something.
Yeah, you can tell a lot about where you hit by the reaction, too. I've seen an awful lot of them get away from clients over the years that they thought they had them dead, and I'm like, you didn't hit that deer. And they're like, I had to. And I'm like, no, I didn't hit that deer. Because you can see the reaction, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So before, what would you say if you shot a deer and it bucks its back legs in the air? Good or bad to you?
Just his back legs?
He like bucks his back legs, kicks his back legs in the air, and then goes off.
Well, anytime when they jump like that, like to me that picture to me is like when they jump straight up in the air. That's my impression I get of that bucking. They jump up, and it's almost like they take another bound in the air. Their legs like kick in the air, like they're trying to get traction, and then they hit the ground and go. Those deer are hit,
So the reason I asked that is because I had a black powder buck, probably 5 years ago now or so, 6 years ago, something like that. I was scrambling trying to get stuff ready for snowmobile season, so I was going into work on a bridge, and I'm driving in, and I see this beautiful buck is walking up the road. It was pretty good ways ahead of me, maybe, I don't know, I say good ways, 100 yards or something. Good snow on the ground. So I get out and had my gun with me. I shoot at him and miss going up that hill. He was just going around the corner. So I run after him, and what I didn't calculate for is how far it was uphill, but I reload and I'm running. And I'm catching him because he's just walking. It didn't even bother him that I shot at him. He's walking the road. And I mean, by the time I get to the top of the hill, I'm spent, but I'm huffing and puffing, and I see him just going over the next rise. Now he's maybe 60 yards from me, and he disappears over the rise. So I start going at it again, and I get there, and I get to the top of that rise, and he's probably 80 yards from me, and he's broadside, and he's walking into the woods. I pull up and take my time, fire, and he kicks his back legs in the air and goes off. And I was like, whew, there, all right, got him. I'll put another load in and finish him off. So I go back down and get my truck, give him a few minutes and all that. Well, long story short is I tracked that deer for 2 days. Oh. And, I had one other chance where I almost got a shot at him, but he went right up over Coburn here, went right up over the steepest part down the other side. And I ended up finding his bed the next day, and he was bleeding. He had been bleeding from his front. I hit him right in the front, and I think I must have caught his brisket or something right across the front. But he was bleeding in his front, but then he quit bleeding by the time he got up, and he walked away, and there wasn't a drop of blood on the ground, and wasn't acting. And I think he was fine. I think he ended up. But I always thought, kicking up in the air like that, you hear it's heart shot and all this stuff. Always perceived it as a good sign, but
no, I don't. I just know they're hit when they jump up in the air. I don't think it's an indication of where they're hit, but they're hit. But what I take from that story is you took your time. He was broadside, so you took your time when you shot.
Yeah,
which means you ain't so accurate.
Yeah, you got to shoot quick.
Yeah. Just put the beat on them.
Shots fired. Too far, Lee. Too far.
Yeah. You're not the American sniper. You don't have to breathe and wait.
When you take your time, you get more movement going on.
Yeah, but I did. The reason I did, and I say take my time, is because of my breathing, because I was so out of breath. And I was just like, you know, I remember thinking about it because I was so out of breath, and I was like, you know, and maybe so, but with snow on the ground and everything else that was going on there, I mean,
another painful lesson.
Oh
right?
yeah, maybe that's gonna be my book, Hal.
Yeah,
it was fun though. Would have been a lot more fun to.
Well, I've written about plenty of them stories, but they still come back and haunt me. You know what I mean? It's always the biggest ones too. You know, the biggest ones hurt the worst, right? When you goof it up. Yeah.
You never forget that vision, do you?
Oh no.
You always see that rack or that last.
Yeah. Everybody likes the one on my first DVD we made, that one I shot at with my old Hawken rifle there. He was laying out there about 75 yards. He walked right back to me because it was a big one. Yeah. Big 10 pounder.
I don't know if I've ever watched that DVD. Maybe I should catch up on your stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can even find it.
Yeah, we might have a copy kicking around.
Where was that, here? Or was it Ontario?
No, it was here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Featherstone was filming me. We used to hunt a lot. We'd both be guiding, and we used to take muzzleload a week, you know, and we'd go together. Not that we hunted together all the time, but sometimes one of us would have a deer and the other one would film the other one, you know, or something like that. But
you guys were using beta recorders? The old beta tape?
we were using 16 millimeter cameras, film cameras.
Shoulder mounted.
It was... There was no sound. It was just all like the fast movement.
Yeah, with all the lint flicking across the film screen.
I think that was 8mm, wasn't it?
Yeah, 8mm, whatever it was.
But the good old days. So what? You shot at that buck, and then he just walked back towards you while you.
Well, yeah. I was tracking him. I had tracked him a long ways, and had jumped him in a swamp, and he headed back for the mountain. But then he started up. I think he was tired, and it was late, and I think he just wanted to head down towards town, you know, migration, you know. And he started back up the mountain, but he just abruptly turned. He went right back down. He went up across the road, probably quarter of a mile, made a loop, come right back across the road again, and then just headed down and down and down. And he got down, it was hardwoods that had been cut, and it was a little bit open, but it was, you know, whips in it and stuff. And I can see him laying there out in front of me. It was just a nice day for tracking. It was windy, you know, and I don't know if it was spitting snow or not, but it was windy, I know. And I can see the back of his head and pretty much top of his body and the back of his neck and head. And I'm like, gee, there he is right there. So I had to ease ahead a little bit just to even think about getting a shot. And again, he's looking away. So I ease ahead a little bit, and I kept trying to get a shot, but like I could only look like at that distance I could see about maybe 6 inches of his body, you know, because he's down in the snow. And finally I was probably 75 yards, you know. It was a poke. And all I had was that old Hawken rifle with a round ball, you know.
That's a challenge.
Yeah. And so finally I said, well, I think I can get him here, you know, because I had an opening where I could see the length of his body, that 6 inches, you know. So I pulled right on it. I'm trying to calculate, you know. I'm thinking, well, at 75 yards, that round ball, it's going to drop a little bit. So I held it right on that brown I could see.
Took too much time.
I didn't take long to shoot once I decided I was shooting. I fired, and he stands up. And he starts looking around, like what the heck was that? And so I'm down on one knee, and I'm trying to load the gun. So I get powder in there, and that's back when I had one of them brass flasks, you know, and you dump it in with your thumb over it and then dump the powder in. And I had a patch ball and a little wood block there, and I'm ramming as I'm doing this, I'm looking, and he's turned around, and he's walking right up towards me. So I'm trying to move slow and tunk that bullet down in there. And he's looking, you know, he's coming, and he's looking around, and he gets like, I don't know, 20 yards from me, 25 yards, not very far. Excuse Excuse me. And he stops. And so I can't move now. He stops. He's looking around, but he's not looking at me, but he's looking around. And finally he turns kind of away from me and just continues walking. So now I'm trying to get it hammered down in there good, and I just watched him disappear out of sight up through the woods. Big 10-pointer, big wide 10-pointer, and well over 200. I mean, it's a big buck, yeah.
So you're talking about, first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is that picture that I sent you guys of Hal's great-grandfather. That's the guy I pictured loading that muzzle loader. So I found a picture on social media, and I was able to zoom in, and this, maybe we'll have to post that to Big Woods Bucks page or something, because it is unbelievable how much that guy resemble him.
Yeah.
It's this old-time hunter. Looks like Hal's great-grandfather. But anyway, so as you're telling that, you're talking about the round ball and everything. I think I would almost, and you don't really bow hunt, so you probably wouldn't, but I would take my chances with a bow, a modern bow, before I would shoot a round ball if I had the choice. For lethality, for what's going to kill the best, those round balls. Well, a lot of animals are killed with them.
Yeah, once you hit them, I would probably agree. If you get a good shot in on one with a bow, they are lethal, but they're going to deflect a heck of a lot more than a round ball even. In the brush, you're not going to do any good.
How many yards were you comfortable with that round ball?
I wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah. So a bow you can get pretty proficient at 60 yards.
Yeah, I mean that
60. Yeah, I mean
pretty damn proficient.
We were shooting 80. We used to put a 3-inch by 3-inch post-it out.
Listen to this guy now. Yeah.
With a round ball?
No, with a bow.
Oh, with a bow. Yeah.
No, but 60 yards is most guys won't ever shoot 60, but I know Eric shot 100 yards last year out to remote camp.
No kidding.
Pretty accurately, yeah. When we were out there, he was messing around. But I shoot out to 60, and that's it. I would never shoot anything beyond that. And I would never shoot at a deer at that range either. Possibly a moose.
When I went elk hunting there, they said if you can shoot accurately at 80, like a pie plate at 80, it increases your odds tremendously. So that's what I practiced. I had 2 Bowtech Pro 40s. This was years ago.
Yeah.
And I'd lob them things, 4 or 5 dozen of them things a night at 80 yards. And
80 is that's a poke with a bow.
Oh, yeah. No, it wasn't anything you wanted.
When you look at the rainbow that you're shooting,
20 yards
when you do
is
that,
what you want,
Yeah.
Oh, a rainbow is,
But if you shoot at 60 or 80 or whatever, you shoot at 60, 40 is a chip shot.
Right. That's what.
And that's what you're really building.
Well, I think the confidence was,
Yeah.
Yeah, because
but your pins at 80 are like, you're running out of room.
Oh, yeah.
Especially if you're talking about an older bow. But
I had no confidence in that Hawking rifle round ball.
Yeah.
The only reason I actually had it that year was because I got talked into buying they only made them a couple of years. It was a Gornick Arms, and it was one of the first inline muzzle loaders, and it was accurate. You had to shoot their own bullets they made. They were a conical bullet, and they made them. They weren't like a I think mine was a 45, but it wasn't like a 45. A 45 caliber, I think, is a .43 or something, say.
Mm-hmm.
But these were .458. So they had their own calibers, so you had to use their own bullets.
Oh, yeah.
So when I went, just not thinking about it, I went to get my muzzleloader stuff out. I was guiding the whole season. And then on Sunday, I'd get my muzzleloader stuff out, and I got 3 bullets. I'm like, well, I got to shoot one to make sure it's on, because I had a scope on that one because it wouldn't accept a peep sight. You couldn't get a peep sight for it. So I had a scope on it, low power. And I go, well, if I got 3 bullets and I shoot one, I got 2 bullets. I said, so ain't no sense of really taking that. So I said, well, I'll get the Hawking rifle out. Well, that's what happens.
Yeah.
If I had that other gun, I might have got that deer, because I had a scope on it and stuff, conical. Not saying I would have, but
yeah.
Then the next year was the year I used that Gornick again, and I had them 2 bucks come out. I've told that story, that I was tracking them 2 big bucks together, and it didn't go off on one. The cap didn't go off, and the next one, the powder cap went off and the powder didn't. That was the end of it. I said, I got to find something different. So
I've actually got a video. I was never going to post it just because of, it was just a failed. I actually took Jonah and I had already tagged out. I hit one, Lee. So I was tagged out. Yeah. Yeah, I hit one.
He actually hit and killed the deer.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
There was this time like a couple of years ago. So anyway, I was tagged out and I was, like all of us, was still itching to go. So Jonah had never tracked one before, so I took him and we had the whole thing. I probably talked about this before too, but I gave him my gun and had this bucket 30 yards feeding, had no idea we were there.
Oh, wow.
I've got the camera. It wasn't good footage because he had his head down and I kept on looking to make sure because I knew it was the buck we were tracking, but I didn't tell him to fire until I made absolutely positive. I just saw the antler on it. So he fires and poof, nothing happens. It's just the cap go off. That's probably the wrong sound for a cap going off.
Yeah, but we get it.
Yeah. So anyway, it was just snowing. It was one gone. The powder was just black mush. When we cleaned it out, it was loaded with water in there. That was especially that was a buck. Could have shot him with a bow for he was at that range. No idea we were there. One of those black powder stories. That's why the Woodman arm.
What was
so good?
Yeah, that's right. What was the muzzleloader that was made in Leamington, Maine? Wasn't that a New England Firearms or something?
I don't know.
I had one. I think it came from there, but it had an open breech, like you cocked it. And then the number 11 cap went on over a nipple, but it was inside. And you just flicked the lever up and then pulled the trigger, and the action went forward. But that open breech was like an issue, so I had a piece of tape over it. And it fired great, accurate. I was at camp one day in Rangeley, headed down over the hill, and there's a buck standing in the road. Nice one. I'm like, son of a gun, this is going to be easy. So I actually go back to the house and park. And I come back down, get on his track, and I just take it. I didn't go not even 2 miles, and I look up, and he's laid on the side of this little ridge about 75 yards. So he's not even paying attention. So I get within about 50 yards, nice open, clear shot, and I pull that tape off real gently, and I cock the gun, and I pull the trigger, and just thud. What the heck? I look down.
Your sound effects are no better, by the way.
Yeah, no. The thing is so full of snow that the hammer won't even hit the number 11 primer. So there I am with those spruce stick, and I'm digging this snow out of there that I just packed in really good. And the deer's still laying there. Well, the deer stands up, and he's looking at me, and he's not real nervous, and it's just like he turned and walked off like he was disgusted with the whole show. And I pulled up, and I pulled the trigger again, and still that snow was in there, and it wouldn't let that go forward. But, yeah, that was another muzzleloader. I had a big one over in Adamstown getaway. I had a CVA with a number 11 cap on it. Remember the hammer fell like the old style flintlock, but the 11 cap was on there.
Yeah, that's what my Hawken rifle was.
Yep, I used to fill that little nipple full of, Pyrodex or whatever to get it go off. No, that buck walked off. I'd click, nothing.
Yeah, I changed mine over to the next big thing was they called it a musket cap, and you could change your nipple, and the musket caps are actually about twice as big, so they had a little more oomph to them, but still wasn't much. I used to put a little piece of saran wrap over the nipple and the cap with a little elastic on it. It would work. It would go off all right because it was just saran wrap, but it would keep it dry around there. But I think back on them days, and I'm like, boys, everybody's got it pretty good nowadays, muzzle loading.
Oh, yeah. You wonder where the point's going to be if they ever draw a line again, because it went from truly primitive arms to, I guess, defined as muzzleloader now. So it's just got to be loaded from the muzzle, and how far will it go?
Some states still have it primitive.
Yeah.
I think Pennsylvania, I think they just finally changed. That was all flintlock up until not too long ago. I mean, imagine having to hunt with a flintlock.
No. Maybe in a better climate.
Well, that's it. Here. And, you think about, a lot of people don't realize it's just the difference of when you're wandering through the woods or tracking or whatever, then if you're sitting in a tree stand, it ain't no big deal. You can put something over it and keep it dry. But when you're walking around and snow's falling on your gun all the time.
And that's what it is that time of year. It's always that first week of December. So 3, 4, 5 inches of fresh snow in the trees. It's hard to keep them. In fact, I find that for me, I wasn't like it with my new gun this year, but my gun in the past, I was so consumed with, making sure it was going to fire because of deer missed with it.
Yeah.
That it takes your mind off the hunting part.
Yeah.
Whenever you have a doubt whether it's going to go off or not, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
Confidence is big.
I don't even think about it with that Woodman Arms anymore. I know that's going off.
That's a nice piece of equipment.
And the other thing I still do with that one, too, I started doing it with my, when I had the Omega, because that's sealed fairly well. I mean, it's metal on metal, a block there. But I used to take that boar butter, that grease from muzzle loaders, boar butter, and I'd put it on the rim of it. So when you locked it closed, you had that greasy seal on it. Yep. Yeah. And I do that with the Woodmans. I just smear a little bit on the block, and around the rim, and then when you close it, it's just that one little extra step,
Yeah.
The old boar butter companies would be coming out of the woodworks to sponsor us for that one.
That's right. Yeah.
Do they even use that
I was just thinking of the greasy seal. The name of a restaurant.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, I think there's still a big calling for. I mean, there's still people that do them shoots, primitive shoots and all that. They're into it, with their buckskins and
that's cool stuff. All those little things that offshoot off everything, like the cowboy shoots and all that stuff.
That'd be fun. Yeah,
fun stuff.
Yep.
Those guys get good with that stuff. Hey guys, Joe here. Wanted to take a few minutes to talk about Lake Parlin Lodge. We're a 4-season lodge located just south of Jackman. We've got cabins, lodge rooms, mini lodge. We're a big snowmobile destination in the winter, full restaurant, bar, all the amenities that you need for your trip. Open obviously through the summer, right on the lake. Kayaks, canoes, all included with the cabin. We also do a lot of weddings, so if you're looking for a destination wedding, we can do a wedding up to 200 people. And, of course, we've got our hunting season, moose season, deer season. So check us out. We're at lakeparlinlodge.com. My question is, are we going to save the questions for the next episode?
Well, that's up to you. You're the producer here.
Yeah.
Whatever you say goes.
I think that because we had such a deluge of questions this month, that we saved the ones that we got for the next episode.
What? Why? Has it been an hour and a half already?
Well, we're right at an hour.
I think we can take care of these questions.
Oh, okay. I want to make sure. You never know what you get involved with. You want to answer them correctly. It might take more than 30 minutes.
Let's chip away at them.
We could talk for 2 hours. I don't
Put
care.
your glasses on.
I got my spectacles.
Oh, yeah. He just went into old man mode.
Yeah. Well, this stuff prints out in like about a 2 font here. All right.
2 font. Wasn't that an old hairdo in the 50s?
That was a do font.
It was Buffon, I think.
Oh, Buffon. All right. This question.
We're sitting in the bar and we ain't even drinking.
Yeah.
I'm drinking coffee.
So this question of the month, these are from June, remember. So this was from Troy Reynolds of Waterville, Vermont. Question is, Hal, I just attended your deer clinic this spring and learned how to locate bucks by locating signpost rubs and where to locate them. When you hunt other states like New York, New Hampshire, Mass., what are you looking for sign that would be comparable to a signpost rub that will make you keep going back to an area in hopes of seeing a buck? At home, I might find random rub or scrape here and there on an all-day walk, but not anything concentrated to a certain area. Thanks. Troy. Yep. You, like everybody else, Troy, that takes a deer clinic, because the biggest thing is when you're in Vermont, your odds of finding a signpost rub are not very good because it takes old mature bucks and many of them to create these signposts or keep them going in the competition, and you just don't have enough mature bucks. Most of your bucks get killed before they get mature, so you're not going to have as many signpost rubs, if any. You know, I know I've talked to guys over there that once in a great while they'll find one. So, but I find them in New York in the Adirondacks as signpost rubs, and they're on brown ash like they would be here. I tend to see when you get down below south of here, you know, Massachusetts and anywhere in the south, I've found signpost rubs down in Tennessee turkey hunting one time. It's just they got to be in an area where there's enough mature bucks, and that's it. So I always look for those, and maybe it's because I'm just hunting in the places where, you know, the deer population might not be as high, but there's going to be mature bucks. That's why I'm expecting to find the signposts. If not, if I find a lot of regular rubs and scrapes, but it's going to be hard for you to compare that. I know, like I said, you learned how to find them over here in Maine, but just keep in mind, that's it. You're not going to find the signposts if you don't have the mature buck. So you have to focus more on, like you said, you find a random rub or a scrape. But if you keep following those, or you search around, it's still, the bucks still are going to tend to travel, like I taught you, the edge cover, where it's transitions from the green to the hardwood, around the swamps, the high part of the mountains. That's where you got to look for your buck sign, no matter where you hunt. You're going to find where the mature bucks are going to use that more than anything.
So you invented the term signpost, right? Did you come up with that?
Yeah.
In your book? Because it's a common term now.
Yeah, everybody
right? In the deer
uses
world.
that.
And you just talk about it like it's always been around, but to be honest, you just kind of came up with it in your book. And
I came up with it thinking about it because I knew it was sign. They were putting their sign or their scent on it. So that was my way of differentiating that rub from any other rub,
Yep.
Signpost. And I also coined the term big woods, which everybody uses for everything now. Giving away my age.
So I've started noticing, and one of the biggest things that I always took from your signpost rub info is where you find them, like in the trickles and stuff. And so I've started looking at pictures and videos. You watch videos, and like we were talking about earlier, there's a lot of good hunters that are really shooting some nice videos of their tracking and showing the sign and everything from Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And I've noticed that if you look at whenever they show a signpost rub, they'll come across one. It's usually right next to a little brook or a trickle, and it's always the ash.
Yeah, because that's where the brown ash or black ash, what they signpost on most up here in northern part of Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Adirondacks, that's where it grows. So I tell people, when I teach people how to find the sign, I teach them how to identify the brown ash and where it grows. That's your first step, because you can wander through a lot of woods and not be anywhere near where a brown ash tree might grow.
Right.
And that's just it. For some reason, that tree needs a lot of water to live. And
it's got to be the texture on it for the scent.
Well, I used to think that until I went to Ontario, because Ontario is full of black ash, they call it there. Same tree. Remember, Lee? You go into them stands, it looked like you'd be in a hardwood run, and it's all brown ash. And I've never found a signpost on a brown ash out there. They'll be on a red pine or
red pine,
jack pine.
Funny, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, out there, a red pine is an uncommon tree. There's tons of jack pine. Remember the short needle jack pine and spruce and fir, but a red pine isn't real common there. And the other thing we found them on out there would be willow, the scrub willow that gets a pretty good diameter to it. And that grows in wet areas too, see? So to me, it's a combination of maybe what holds the scent, but I think it's also, to them, it's a tree that's not as common. Because they identify all those trees by the smell of the tree. That all smells different to them too, But it is here. It does for sure. The bark on that tree has got to hold the scent better.
It's just soft. You take your fingernail and
it's like balsa wood kind of.
Real light and soft.
Yeah. But the other key to finding those brown ash, I always teach people to go into if you go into one of them trickles, it can be way up, it can be way high in a mountain or high on a ridge, and you start following one of them trickles down, if you find a brown ash in it, you're in the right trickle because it's going to seed that whole trickle. That's how they seed out. They got like a little flower. They're not like trees. They got more like a flower on them with a seed in the flower. And that falls out and gets in the trickle and the water in the spring probably when it's running off. And it goes down the trickle. And when it finds the right place, some of them are going to seed out there, So that's how it is. You get in. If you find one, I'll stay right in that. If I find a brown ash, especially sometimes you'll find a big one. I call it a seed tree. I find them 2 foot in diameter or more. There's going to be some smaller ones down there that the bucks are, if there is any bucks around. Yeah. But I'll stay in that just to find them. So that's the key to that.
So when you're in New York, is it the brown ash also?
Yep. Predominantly the brown ash because they got a lot of wet ground there. It's very similar in the Adirondacks. The country is very similar to here, other than they have more hemlock and white pine than we have up north here. The Adirondacks would be more like the woods of central Maine.
Yep. And down east almost, like Lincoln areas.
Pine and hemlock. See, we don't have very little of that up north here. So, but anyways, they have wet ground and they have lots of brown ash there. So, anyways, what's your question, Lee? Not your question, but the question.
When do they start serving beer here?
I don't need your glasses.
All right.
I'm going to, though.
I don't have it. Oh, you gave me a question?
I gave you a question. Yeah, that's your assignment for today.
He's right with it.
Look,
he says he doesn't need glasses as he pulls his glasses out.
All right.
He's getting ready.
What are you doing?
He was acting like a big shot. He didn't need my glasses, but all of a sudden he needs his own.
Tangled in his headset.
Yeah.
Does Joe have a question?
He does have a question. We all have one.
Let me get Hal's glasses.
Yeah. Right. I think Lee's ready now.
There we go. Hold on. I'm ready now.
Okay, who's this question from?
I can't read it. It's in the one font. It's from
Silence.
Jeremy Henderson.
Where's he from?
Vermont.
All right.
Sharon, Vermont. Hey, Hal and the Big Woods Bucks team. I just want to say thanks for providing me with some great podcasts. It's been fun learning about the Big Woods, and I'm excited to say that I have my first trip up there to stay at Lake Parlin for a muzzleloader hunt. You gotta print this out bigger. I ain't shitting you. It's like trying to read the fine print on an Advil
They're
bottle.
2-inch letters, Lee.
Yeah. 2-inch letters. I feel like. All right.
I like this guy already. He's staying up here at the lodge.
See, he talks like me. Anyways, all right. I have a random question, not directed specifically to hunting. In the beginning of your podcast, there was 2 shots fired from what my guess is the trusty 7600. After the shots is the sound of either some rusty hinges on an outhouse blind.
These questions are slim pickings, huh?
Or an old charger. Ha, he's being funny. Can you
use your big words, Lee? You can do it.
I can't read it.
You need some 5.0.
It's obvious you can't read it.
You need some new glasses, 5.0s.
Can you...
You're going to Hooked on Phonics, too.
Can you sum this up for my curiosity? I was thinking it would start with some footsteps on crusty snow and then 2 good shots. Just joking. Curiosity. Wanted to say thanks again for the knowledge, insight, and laughs. Is that really a question?
Yes, it is.
You really brought this in for me to read.
They're trying to peel. They're trying to look behind the curtain.
I ain't
Lee.
shitting you. I'm gonna take a picture and put this on Facebook because I've got an 11 by whatever piece of paper here, and in one 2-inch corner.
Hey, all right, folks. I'm looking at this.
That's how it prints out. Hey,
I'm looking at this for the first time.
What's his name?
Hey,
again?
Hal. Hey, Hal and the Big Woods Bucks team. I just want to say thanks for providing me with some great podcasts.
Right.
It's been fun hearing about.
Don't you know what that? Hey, that's a good question, by the way, because I always wondered when Chris came up with that. Chris made that up. That's our opening for the podcasts. And don't you listen to our podcast, Lee?
No.
Joe?
Yeah.
So Joe and Lee don't listen to our podcast, so
that was for attacking me in my shooting, by the way.
They don't even know what the opening is. So Chris come up with the opening that opens up the podcast, and it's footsteps. See, he's perceptive.
I've listened to it. We've all listened to it.
So it's footsteps going up, coming in the cabin door. You hear the hinges.
Yeah.
Oh, you hear the shots first. Yeah. And by the way, good guess on the 7600 6.
Yeah.
So, and then
that was Hal and I out of the gravel pit.
Yeah. And then the door creaks open, and you hear the crackling fire. We just thought it would be a good intro to the podcast to make everybody feel like we're in camp telling stories now.
It works.
I think that was Chris's brainstorm, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Coming up with that. That was really good.
Chris found those.
And he produced it.
Yep. Yeah. Chris did that. So
he's the unsung hero here.
Yeah.
Good job, Chris.
We get to get on here and BS all day long.
Can you get Hal a better printer so he can print in a bigger font?
Well, Chris has to edit all this stuff and get it up, and he's the unsung hero.
We've had him on one podcast, right, in the beginning.
The first one.
Yeah. We should have him on again.
Yeah. He's working hard right now. He's
not working too hard today. He's having his colonoscopy today.
Too much information. Jesus, Al.
Speaking of colonoscopy, did you bring some muffins?
I told Chris that we were going to do the mobile podcast, and we were going to interview him when he came out of the colonoscopy when he was still on the laughing gas juice there. Now that would be fun.
Oh yeah.
Question him all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's I like the intro as far as the sound effects and all that.
Yeah,
I think it sets the stage, and that's one of the things that we hear a lot of is people feel like they're in deer camp and they're sitting around the fire and all that, and kind of the way this all started and what we were trying to achieve. So Chris captured that well.
So good job on all the sounds there, Jeremy. Keep listening. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
All right. Joe's got his question now.
It wasn't really a tough guess on the 7600, though, Jeremy.
Yeah.
I mean. All right. Dear Hal, I'm an active duty infantryman in the U.S. Army. I'm currently forward deployed to Afghanistan, daydreaming about taking a trip to the big woods of Maine or the Adirondacks this fall when I get back. Even though I was born in Vermont, I never knew much about tracking until I found your podcast on Spotify and listened to all 26 episodes in a few weeks of my downtime out here. I almost ran out of breath. Now I want to plan a hunt. I understand that scouting during the spring or as close to the hunting season as possible would be preferable, but that just isn't possible for me this season. So most of my scouting will be done over Google Maps before actually scouting while hunting. I understand water is a good starting point to find signpost rubs, but what else can I look for to narrow down some better hunting areas to learn to track on using maps?
Well, you better answer that, Joe. You're the big map guy.
I'm the map guy. The first thing I usually look at in maps, whether it's deer hunting or moose hunting, is I look for the least amount of roads sometimes.
Yep, exactly.
That's the biggest thing that I like to see,
or
either roads or roads that are not accessible.
Right.
Yeah. And
winter roads and gated roads, blocked roads.
And some of that can be, you can, if you take your, like a Maine Atlas, which you probably don't have one over there with you, but what I do is I'll take like the Gazetteer, and that'll show a lot of the gated roads. But it's to me, the further, the first thing, there's all kinds of things you're going to look for, but the first thing is going to be how accessible is it? How far is it from a paved road? There's like this land out here, actually, where you and I hunted a couple years ago when we were tracking that buck by.
When you walked me to death that day?
Yeah. I walked the legs right off you. Yeah. The old guy was behind me just huffing and puffing. Joe, my legs are burning. He was complaining. Oh, like a little girl back there. Oh. But it wasn't quite like that.
Oh, I was going to say, it was probably just like the roles were probably reversed.
Yeah. Well, I think we were both doing okay, but I was surprised at how good he could go.
You were?
I was. I mean, look at him for crying out loud. He's got 1 foot in the grave.
Don't let the gray beard fool you.
No, I remember that day we're tracking. This buck went. It was miles we went that day.
Oh yeah.
We were. I don't know. It was like 10 miles on the track.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable.
We put the first 5 miles on before we realized he'd come back across the road. Remember?
Yeah. First light, and we humped it, man. We were moving, trying to make up time on him. And
next thing you know, we're back out in the road again, 2 miles from where the truck was.
Oh yeah, we could have just drove up there. But anyway, he went uphill, and we got to one point, and I stopped to take a breather, and I looked back at Hal, and he's looking at me like, another day in the office. I said, "You do pretty good for an old guy." So anyway, that where were we going with this? That deer, that area that he was in, is now all rocked off. All the roads accessing around there is all rocked off, which I understand why it really irritates people and pisses them off.
Why?
Because of access. Well, people that can't drive in. We got some moose hunters, moose guides that like that area. That
I love to see rocked off. I love to see rocked off. I love to see bridges pulled, culverts dug up.
Well, the thing is some people don't realize that the road was never there. And then, I mean, back in the day, we walked in lots of places, most everywhere. There was so few roads. And then they built roads, and then people drive on them, and then all of a sudden, I think that's it. They don't remember there never was a road there before, so they're just making it like it used to be. So I just say get used to it. You're not entitled to. You're entitled to use the land here. We're grateful for that, but you're not entitled to drive your vehicle on it everywhere you want to go.
You're 100% right. Although I'm pretty sure Matt told me that one side of that road is posted, not one side of the Spencer Road, but one of the roads going in is posted now for no hunting, and that's not good.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
Is that the Nature Conservancy?
Yep.
I didn't think it was posted no hunting.
Yeah, that's the way I understood it. I thought he said one side of it.
I know they had a bunch of crazy things on the sign there. I think Russell just did a stump report on it again.
Yeah, they don't want dogs, no. All you can do is walk in there. But anyway, going back to the question, the other thing, I'm a big fan of, I love anytime, I always talk about it, I love cedar bogs, as far as a feature. Deer, when you can get into something, a cedar or spruce bog, I call them spruce bogs, I guess it's not really a spruce bog, but you get into those areas that are just green growth, that are older green growth. They get a lot of that old man's beard down in there and everything. It's just bucky, and the deer like it. And along with that, I would say, like, I don't know if you alluded to it earlier, but like green growth and softwoods up on the tops of mountains too.
Yep. The transition line always seems to be a big deal, and nowadays, it used to be on the old topo maps, you couldn't tell. You didn't know what kind of woods it was. You could tell if there was a bog, or you knew where the ridges and the mountains were. But now that we have access to satellite imagery, you can tell if it's softwoods or hardwoods. And, if you see the hardwoods, softwoods, and it's boggy, it's either a spruce or cedar bog or something. So it actually is a lot easier to look for that stuff nowadays with those. And
the other thing I would suggest is, some satellite images show it. I always have stuff to compare it to, because I know when certain years when cuts were made and stuff. So I'll look, because there's, how many different apps out there and satellite imageries. Some of them might be 8 or 9 years old, and some of them might be 1 year old, and a lot changes in a couple years up here. So I always look for clues, which if you're not around here, it's hard to do except to find what the date of the image is, because a lot of times they will post the dates. But I'll look if I know that cut was made 2 years ago. I'll scroll over it and look and see, it does show it there. So I know it gives you an idea how recent it is, because you might look at it and come up here to hunt, and it's gone.
Right, the woods are gone.
Yeah, which unfortunately is just the way it is, in this area.
Yeah. Well, where you hunt in this area it is. I don't have clear cuts where I hunt.
No, is it time for a muffin?
Brittany,
Yeah.
Well, Lee, you don't even use maps to scout, do you? You just get in the woods and look.
I do, but I'm sitting here listening to Joe, and I was riding last winter, and I climbed this big hardwood ridge that I hadn't been up before because, the snowmobile technology is much better now than it was. Every year it gets better, and I don't think I get better. I think my sled gets better, but I found this huge cedar bog on top of this big ridge, and I'm sitting here thinking in my head, there ain't a road for a long ways, and I know it's gated at the road at the bottom, so I'm thinking the fastest way in there is across the river, and I know a spot where there's an old bridge, so I'm thinking I'm going to poke in there this year. So I hope I remember it when there's snow on the ground.
I thought you were going to be hunting over this way.
Well,
There he is. He's going to stick with.
Well, we know there's going to be a cameraman, Hal. We know that for a fact.
Right.
No matter where he hunts.
And I got to worry about my cameraman, getting him in.
Yeah. Which your film, and it is a good film. For those that haven't seen it, it is good.
Well, don't stick a stick in people's eye till we get it.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, that's everybody.
I'm building it up, Hal. That's what it's called in the business. I'm building it up.
In the biz.
Yeah. Well,
but one of these days, maybe Lee will get his hands on his own property.
It's coming. I've been talking to the guy that shot the film and Big Woods, and there's some people interested. So we're moving forward. It's coming.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know if people realize how persistent we really are, but nothing ever goes away until it comes out the way we want it.
So, all right. So, Andrew, hope you're listening. Thanks for your service, for being over there.
I was just going to add that. Appreciate your service and the sacrifice of being away from this great country.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a free hunting club membership so you can get on there and look at the films and stuff in there. So if you can either contact me, email me, and Chris will get it set up for you. So keep listening, and good luck this fall wherever you end up.
Yeah.
All right. Is it muffin time, Lee?
It's muffin time.
Yep.
All
hey,
right.
And if you haven't already, so we're going to be, just to talk a little bit about social media real quick before we sign out, check out the Facebook page. If you're on iTunes, give us a review.
Yeah, get them reviews going on iTunes.
And also YouTube we're gonna be adding a lot of stuff to YouTube channel here.
Yep.
Coming up quick and
yeah, we're gonna figure out how we can get more short films out there to everybody.
So now it's a good idea again to have a cameraman.
Yeah.
This is a crazy world.
Can we just go eat muffins, okay?
Yeah.
If I got to listen to this guy anymore, Hal, when is contract negotiations?
Oh, I think they're coming
pretty
right up.
Pretty hard to negotiate when you guys work for food.
Drive to Jackman for muffins and coffee.
Yeah. Next thing you'll know, you'll want a peanut butter sandwich.
Yeah. So Jeff on it.
So anyways, go ahead and like us on Facebook, Instagram, all that. Hey, thanks for tuning in. Till next time, good luck on the trail.